when the referee gave a foul against them, they could not believe it.
No, they couldn't believe
in
it
their
at
face.
all.
They have been refed so differently throughout the whole tournament. They've genuinely believed that these are fouls they can get away with. And when the referee was calling against them, they looked so shocked.
Welcome back to the Backseat Manager podcast, the football podcast for people who think they know better, but probably don't. I'm your host, John Luke, here with my very special guest, Matt. Welcome back.
Thank you.
The World Cup has finally finished and we've been blessed with a champion that we both wanted to have. We've also got a loser final to debate because I would argue that the loser final was more entertaining and better than the actual final was. It's the game that everybody actually wanted to watch, even though the players didn't really want to be there. We've got a lot to discuss, and some future World Cup conversations have already started taking place. Infantino's not wasting any time. He's just getting on with it, apparently. So that is exciting, some would say. Some would say questionable. But regardless, we're going to start off with the loser final, France v England. Now, we're obviously both England fans, so this was... I mean, there is a certain pleasure you get as an England fan when we beat France. It doesn't happen often, and I don't think anyone was expecting us to beat France this time around. However, it was a welcome addition to my Saturday night. The stats were pretty evenly split, all things considered, even though we dominated them for, the entirety of the first half. We'll just run through some of these stats quickly before we get into it. Possession, 51% England, 41% France, 9% contested. So, sort of, not one-way traffic for England, but we did pretty well, I think, in total. Obviously, it was 6-4, England getting 6. Total shots, this is where I'm talking about it being even, 19 each, and 11 on target for England, 9 on target for France. So it really is we're just shooting. There is no form of defence for this game whatsoever, which has probably worked in our favour, because England's defence, realistically, has been the worst part of our run this tournament. I mean, we saw what our defence did against Argentina. They couldn't do anything. So realistically, it was a welcome addition. And I mean, realistically, all the usual names scoring. Bellingham gets 1, Mbappe gets 2, Dembele gets 1. Saka getting a hat trick, which we love to see. As an Arsenal fan, I am pleased that my star boy has gotten some goals. Declan Rice getting 1 to kick everyone off, and Ezri Konsa. Oh, and Barcola got 1 as well. I forgot about Barcola. But I mean, it was a... What did you think of the game, Matt, to start off with? Because, I mean, I have views on this game.
Well, I certainly wasn't looking forward to it. I think that was a resounding opinion across the nation. No one was particularly looking forward to it. But I did sort of say, I sort of said to my dad before it started, I would love it if we just went out and smashed them. I said I'd love it if we just... And then we got 1, and it sort of had that sort of feeling. Okay, this is going to get going. And then we got 2, then we got 3, and then 4 was like, oh yes, this is incredible. So the first half went as well as I think any game England have ever played. I mean, France, all you needed to do was look at Mbappe's face, body language, to see that France were not at their best.
Yeah, they played it like it was a friendly.
And I think realistically, if you want to look at how France are playing, you look at Mbappe, and you look at is he sort of engaged? Is he, happy? Does he look determined? Mbappe couldn't give a toss.
No, he really didn't care.
He could not care one little bit, and that reflected across the whole team.
100%.
Really did.
100%. I mean, the pre-match interviews with some of the French players and with some of the England players as well. Lots of players coming out and being like, "We don't want to play. We actually don't want to do this game. It's We've already been knocked out and now we're 4. We haven't got a choice. We have to play a third place finishing. We don't really need a third place finisher, I don't think. I think it's one of those... It might be the only football tradition that I'd genuinely be okay scrapping. I don't see a need to know who came third. You lost the semi-final. No one remembers the third place finisher. No one barely remembers the runner-up. So it was one of those weird ones where you could really tell that France didn't want to be there. And the first half, I believe, reflected that, considering they played a bunch of different players and then they got absolutely battered 4-0. And I'm so... This is what I believe is the truest thing ever, is... Maybe not ever, but I believe this to be wholly true, is France came out, they played 45 minutes with essentially a B team to just give people a chance to enjoy the World Cup. They then got beat 4-0 at the end of the first half. They went in and they were like, lads, I know we don't care, but we're playing England and we're losing 4-0 at half time. We can't let this run. Then all of a sudden they bring on essentially their starting 11. So the team that begins the second half or plays the majority of the second half is what would have been France's starting 11 in the final, realistically. And then they score 3 like nothing. And I'm like, okay. And then they get a fourth. We get one, they get one, we get another one. To me, the second half of that game is proof that had we got to an England-France final, England would have lost like 5-6-0. Like, it would have been an absolute bloodbath. However, the only reason we managed to get the win for third place is because France didn't want to be there, and they took it as a friendly holiday, and then they realised, oh, actually, our arguably biggest international rivals are beating us 4-0. We can't let this run. And they made it a more respectable scoreline.
Yeah, I think I said last episode that I think neither team are going to want to be there, but for England, need to win it for a sense of mentality. We can beat a big nation at a big tournament. I didn't expect us to say, hey, this is the most important game of our lives. I didn't expect us to want to be there. I didn't expect France to want to be there less, which you should have expected because they were the favourites. So them being in a third place game is even more of this is a waste of time. But you're completely right. I think you have to remember as well that it was Didier Deschamps' last game as France manager. And I don't think there was any way that coming out in the second half that those players were going to lose his last game 6-0. You know, they weren't going to come out and not try. They were always going to come out and try, and that's what they did. And you're completely correct. If France started, or if they felt this game was worth winning, they would have won it. And realistically, could have still won it anyway. Michael Olise missing 3 chances. Probably should have scored 2 of them. And that would have, I mean, if France got level or got in the leads, they would have went on to win. But a sort of a penalty to England sort of kept the two goal margin, gave us a bit of breathing room, and then Bellingham getting the goal at the end was a very good goal. Sort of him becoming the highest English goal scorer ever at a major tournament
in one singular tournament. Yeah, seven goals, I believe, right?
7 goals. So it's the best ending possible for a team who sort of. I don't want to say bottled, but like we sort of bottled it. Well, I don't think if you said at the start of the tournament to me that we would come third and we would beat France in the third place game, I would have said this is probably as good as expected because you knew we were going to have a hard run, and third place with, quite frankly, that defence. And a lot of those players' first tournaments, really as part of a main squad, you would have been okay. New manager, you would have been okay with. In the manner it happened, I don't think anybody's happy. But it's a bit like Gareth Southgate's whole reign. In retrospect, we're going to look back on it very fondly. We're going to think he got us to these finals. What a time, right? And that's what's going to happen to this tournament. We're all going to eventually, in a couple of years' time, say we finished third. It was a good tournament, but we sort of know that, you know.
No, 100%.
Considering how the final went, we should have been there.
No, 100%. I mean, there's a lot to unpack surrounding England and surrounding, I guess, both. I mean, to start with, we've got Zidane. Well, as you said, Deschamps has now left the French national team. And he's, been replaced by Zinedine Zidane, who's taking over from the Euro. Or he's now the job is his now, and he'll be there at the Euros in the UK for the next one. We've also got, just as a little side note, Klopp has officially become the new German manager as well. So we've got the Klopp return, and we've got Zidane in there. So that could spell some goodness for a French team that is clearly, I think anyone can agree, by far one of the strongest teams on the planet. I mean, we're talking about France as if they're like the legendary Brazil squad. You know what I mean, with R9 and all those lots. So, I mean, it really is like top of the pyramid stuff. And then over with England, we've got Tuchel, who's obviously come in, got a brand new squad. So lots of players with their first ever kind of like time at a major tournament. Obviously, the way it went, I don't think anyone's happy with Tuchel's kind of overall performance. The thing is, if we look at this objectively, we take out how we play it and we just look at the result. We came third, which historically for England is the second best we've ever performed at a World Cup. We've never lost a World Cup final, and we've never come third before. We've only ever come fourth. So Tuchel has already cemented the second ever best England performance at a World Cup statistically. I think everyone is sort of still recoiling from our performance against Argentina. However, you look at the loser final, and all that anyone can think of is, where was this against Argentina? Why did we not do this against Argentina? What's this kind of level of what's going on? But I mean, Tuchel is sticking around for the next Euros. I think probably after some time to process, I actually think it is 100% the right decision to keep him as England manager. You don't, he'll build something. Obviously, he hasn't got any games that anyone cares about. The Euros will really be the decider. If he can win the Euros, he'll cement himself as one of the top England managers, arguably of all time. Because I think that is really all it takes to be one of the top England managers, really, is win a World Cup or win the Euros, because we don't really win that often, ever. So I do sort of, saying I back Tuchel is a very strange point to make, but I don't want him gone. I'm content with his position right now, but that is subject to performance in 2 years at the Euros, and subject to some fun, exciting football to watch with England. Because I don't think, based on purely the second half against Argentina, when it came down to pressure, he folded and did what the one thing he said he wouldn't do, which was play defensive football, have that mentality that we don't want to win, we just want to not lose. And so I think the future of England is promising. I'm just not entirely certain that he will be there for many moons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think if you look at it objectively and you take out the emotion, I think Tuchel will stay, and it's the right decision, because there's no one else, firstly.
I mean, there was talk of Pep Guardiola, wasn't there?
There was talk of Pep, but what about now? From now, there's no one else. Unless Pep does fancy it, but
Would you take Pep? Would you replace
over Tuchel? Yes,
Fair.
Because but also you would need to know how the players sort of still think about Tuchel. Are the players completely behind him still? Are there some players who have sort of given up with him? Are there players is there a sort of divide within that squad, or players who back him and who don't want him there? So that it all depends on that, really.
I would be curious to know the players' perspectives of Tuchel, because I'm pretty certain after Argentina, they all hated him. Because it is, yet again, a managerial oversight that has cost England a chance to progress. But I wonder if because obviously some of these players have played with him before, and they know him. And from talks when the squad was announced prior to the tournament, where he was FaceTiming people that hadn't made it in, and the way he dealt with it all, I mean, that is super professional, super well. That's a really good way to kick off your relationship with the players. And going through the group stages and going into the start of the knockouts, getting past Mexico, obviously they all think that he's they back him. But then Argentina sort of it only takes one game to crumble away your relationship with these players. So what I'm really curious to know, well, we will never know, but I'm really curious to know what they all match up with it for, and how it reflects in that dressing room. Or if he'll make significant changes between now and the Euros, actually. That too. Will he bring in players who favour him more? Will he bring in players who fit this, the style of play he wants? Or will he continue to use the World Cup squad? Who knows? Who knows? However, we're gonna pivot away from the loser final, because at the end of the day, it is a loser final, and as we said in the last episode, no one really gives a shit. But before we get there, I want to just discuss the brand new FIFA rankings. We've got a new top 10. I'm going to run you through this. Obviously, as we know, Spain won the World Cup. Congratulations, Spain. Viva España. Spain are now number one, as is the case whenever you win a major trophy. You become number one. Or the World Cup, specifically. No one cares about the Euros, apparently. Argentina dropped to second. France are third. England are fourth. Brazil are fifth, somehow. Don't know why. Morocco are sixth. Portugal have dropped 2 places into seventh. Belgium have come up 1 place to be eighth. Netherlands have dropped 1 place to become 9th. And 10th is Mexico, who have come up 4 places.
Wow.
So Mexico have really put in a very solid performance in this World Cup, and they've showcased the amazing football that they can play. And they're now in top 10 FIFA rankings. I don't know when they were last in the top 10, but they've come up 4 entire places, so they've clearly done bits. They've clearly done very well. They've pushed Germany into
Who's
12th.
11? Germany.
Colombia is 11th. Germany are 12th.
Wow.
So Germany's game against Paraguay really has destroyed them. The biggest climber at the end of this World Cup is Norway, who have come up 12 places.
It's no surprise.
Given the unbelievable charge they've had. They're now 19th, rising 12 places. Tunisia have dropped 12 places with the biggest drop.
No surprise.
No surprise there, considering they didn't do anything. Tunisia 57th, so that's that. Uzbekistan is still below them, so I mean they're not the worst nation in this tournament. But yeah, I mean it's a real shake-up for the top 10, realistically, with Morocco getting in there. Well, they're already in there, but Morocco climbing. So again, I think I'm curious to see how that will match up with the next continental cups as they come around. Definitely one thing to consider. Right. But looking forward to the game that everybody on the planet was watching on Sunday afternoon, evening, night, Monday morning, depending on where you were in the planet. We were watching at 8 o'clock. Spain against Argentina. 1-0 Spain in extra time. Ferran Torres getting the only goal of the game. Just to run you through some of these stats, Matt. Possession. Spain had 60% possession of the ball, compared to Argentina's 32%, 8% contested. So realistically, at some point of this game, it was 68% Spain, which is ridiculous. Spain had 20 attempts at goal, 12 on target. Do you want to guess how many Argentina had?
1.
They had 2, 0 on target. So we really did get a total domination of play from Spain. I mean, we love to see, but this is one thing we were talking about on the previous episode, is we want Spain to play against Argentina. We don't want to give them the ball. We want them to just completely dominate possession, pass around them, don't let them even touch it. Do what they did against France, where they can't even get hold of the ball. Because if you strangle Argentina like that and don't give them any chance to get possession and continuously press, they crumble. I mean, they sort of did it against England in the first half of our game. Argentina, England pressed them and they couldn't do anything. Against France couldn't do anything, and that is an unbelievably powerful attacking squad. But again, if you cut off the players who can run like hell, you're sorted all the way to the bank. But I mean, what did you think of the game overall? I mean, I thought it was quite boring, frankly. But then the World Cup final usually is.
I thought it was incredibly boring, purely because Argentina didn't fancy playing football.
Or shooting at all, evidently.
Argentina thought they were booked in for a UFC event. And I mean, throughout the whole game, I don't think they learned that it wasn't. They weren't as bad as against England. The amount of fouls they were committing, the amount of fouls they were getting away with. But I'd give credit to the referee, because he was probably the best performing person on that pitch. Because you've seen the Argentinian players, when the referee gave a foul against them, they could not believe it.
No, they couldn't believe it at all.
They have been refed so differently throughout the whole tournament. They've genuinely believed that these are fouls they can get away with. And when the referee was calling it against them, they looked so shocked.
It was total
they were genuinely
disbelief.
outraged.
Total
they were genuinely outraged that 2-footed tackles to the head were given as fouls. They could not believe it. And that's genuinely the reason that Spain weren't sort of done over, because the referee actually reffed the game properly. He let them off with yellows a few times in the first half, but overall I think he reffed the game as fair as an Argentina game has been reffed this whole tournament.
100%. I think the referee did an absolutely outstanding job and should 100% be praised for it. I think going into this game, there'd been lots of talk about, FIFA favour Argentina. I mean, even like the prior to the match, a couple of days before, not like right there, Argentinian players were coming out saying, everything we've done, we've worked hard, we're not being given anything. And then after the England game and after, to the final, everyone's like, what? No, you have been favoured. You look at the facts. You can't not. Yeah, they finally had a ref who decided actually we're going to play it fair and square and play by the rules, and it showed. I mean, there's two things to talk about here. Firstly, actually no, we're gonna get to that in a minute. Firstly, what was your favourite moment of the match?
Favourite moment of the match? Well, it's when Enzo Fernandez got sent off.
Seeing Enzo Fernandez get sent off sent the entirety of England, I repeat, the entirety of the nation, into pure ecstasy. I've never seen a pub explode. There's a pub across the street, and I've never heard it explode during this tournament with more cheers and more screams than when Enzo Fernandez decides to give Kubasi, was it, a somersault,
Yep.
make him do a complete 360 away from Earth and land on the ground, and then is shocked when the referee comes and gives him a second. Also, that was a second yellow. It wasn't even a red. It's a second yellow. How can you create a player to do a somersault and then get away with not being sent straight off? And it just blew my mind. But the entirety of the street, I tell you this, Matt, exploded, and they were like a minute ahead. So I didn't know what was happening, and all I'm hearing is, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm glued to the TV. I'm like, wow, either there's been a goal or something incredible is about to happen. And it was just, it was by far one of the best moments, just straight up.
And the most satisfying part of that is the fact his first yellow card was for dissent. Wasn't for a foul. Wasn't for something he'd done.
Being mouthy.
It was just for being a little mouthy. I'll keep it PG. Because he deserved it.
He did deserve it.
They all deserved it. And the funniest thing as well is that Argentina they realised how poorly they were playing, and they resorted to little tactics. Did you see Messi trying to get Cucurella sent off?
Yeah.
He covered his mouth.
He covered his mouth.
Half his mouth for half a second. And even Lionel Messi, probably the greatest player to ever kick a football.
Yeah.
On a pitch.
They're begging
has
the ref.
resorted to trying to get Mark Cucurella sent off.
It was ridiculous. But you know, to me, that just screams pure desperation. They realised, because that was quite late in the game, they realised at that point after Enzo Fernandez had been sent off, they're like, actually, we're in a bit of trouble here. There is a genuine possibility. Because I don't think they went into that final expecting to lose at all. I think Spain went into it thinking it was going to be a bit of a hard battle, seeing how Argentina's prior games had gone. So Spain came into it like ready to play. They were like, okay, we know it's going to be a hard go. We've got this. Like, we're going to push. Hopefully we win. Argentina were like, yeah, we've won it. They were already ready. Did you hear that they'd already got the Falklands banner ready again from the previous game? They were like, yep, we're going to have that at the final. They're thinking that they're looking into the future and not focusing on what they've currently got to do. Just thinking that FIFA might give it to them almost. But that in itself, in my opinion, screams like, you know that you're favoured, but it is what it is. I do love the Cucurella praise on this match, because normally, right, we're not, Cucurella is probably a lovely man, right? Probably a really nice guy. However, it's no surprise, I would like to say, most football fans in the UK despise him because of his haircut and just because he's just annoying, right? But I think you might have said this to me. Anytime anyone gets remotely close to Cucurella and pushes him over or does anything, normally I'm like, yeah, he's pushed over, da-da-da. This time, get away from my boy, get away from Cucurella, get away from my Barnet. Like, it's not acceptable to harm one hair on his head. It was nice to look at him without hatred.
Well, I don't anymore.
I don't.
I found myself the other day going, Cucurella in my head. I was like, mate, he's changed. I see him in a completely different light. He's got a son with autism. I think he's courageous.
Yeah.
I wish him and his partner all the best, and his children.
No, I completely support him.
And now that he's fucked off to Real Madrid and he's not a Chelsea player,
I love him even more.
Could not care less.
No, I love him more. Now that he's left Chelsea, I'm like, all for good. You know, I hope he lives a happy life.
Two things that were like holding me against him, gone. Dissipated. Yeah, just overnight, really.
Overnight. Not even overnight, in 90 minutes. 120 minutes.
90 minutes. And, genuinely, I wish he scored the winner. And there were statues made about him.
Oh, but speaking of goals scored, right, there's two to talk about. First, we'll talk about the goal that actually counted. Ferran Torres. I mean, it's a beautiful ball in from Pedro Porro. I mean, technically still Spain, but like one doesn't play football anymore. It's a beautiful ball in from Pedro Porro going right across the box, right? And I was thinking, right, he's just completely shanked this. Nico Williams somehow rescuing the ball to come back across so that Ferran Torres can smack it in. In the post-game interview, Ferran Torres was there saying, I didn't think, I just shot with all the power of the Spanish peoples. I was like, that is cool. He's definitely thought of that, like walking up to it, like, I want to mention the people of Spain somehow when I was taking a shot. Like, no, don't know if it came across the exact way he wanted to, but it was cool. I was like, yeah, like that's class. I mean, very well worked goal, and I think it was one of those where it was coming at some point. I think Argentina at that point wanted to push the game to penalties, and Spain were like, no, we're not having it. mean, there have been easier goals to score. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's a good finish.
Good build up
It was
was
a good finish.
the build up was great.
I'd seen a thing, the similarities between that goal and the Deeney goal. The header back.
Here's Hardini.
The half volley.
No, it is a very impressive goal.
It's not quite saving the penalty at one end, but
No.
But it's a very good finish. And sort of when he came on for Aaron Torres, I think he's the type of guy to win it. Because he's a bit hit and miss, Ferran Torres.
He's a bit of a
I think he
super
always
sub.
has been. But he is sort of... It's like Spain just have these players who... They aren't superstars. You know, they have Rodri and they have Lamine Yamal. Everyone else is just a good player. But when you obviously have a group that's... I think I said this in the last podcast, but you have players who you don't hear of, who aren't superstars, but they really play well in the system. And Spain just have the perfect system for the fact that these players grow up playing a certain way, and then they carry on playing this way, and it is successful. And they've just got them building blocks in place perfectly, which I don't think any other team in the World Cup have. I don't think they have the cohesion with manager, player, system all throughout the youth groups. That's why Spain have these generations where they win tournament after tournament.
Well, speaking of
it's
the
taken them a decade.
speaking of like the generational progression, because obviously their manager Luis de la Fuente has played and managed the under 17 Spain, under 19 Spain, under 21 Spain, and now Spain. So some of these players will have previously, well, most of these players will have previously played under de la Fuente, growing up like through their academies and through their youth teams and things as they represented their national team. So maybe do you think that their affiliation with the manager from early has granted like further cohesion in his system? Because he's basically had the ultimate dream of molding the youth of tomorrow and then getting to pick a team based off players that he has molded the way he wants. So he's had like almost like godlike control of this Spanish squad, which I think can't be underestimated. But I don't think any other nation will, because that's a significant years sunk into one person to bring about that kind of turnaround. So I think it is definitely something that, English football has so many grassroots that we must be able to find somebody who we can have, in the under 19, under 21, and then take over the England job.
Well, we sort of did.
We sort of did with Southgate.
Gareth Southgate. And we sort of did with Lee Carsley as well.
Because I really thought when Southgate came in, because obviously he just had success with the under 21s England team. I was like, oh, we're going to see a massive influx of the under 21s players coming and playing in the major tournaments. And then we just didn't, for his entire tenure, we just didn't see that. I was like, oh, okay. So everything you did prior is just like out the window then, is it? It made no sense to me. It's a whole...
Well, let's see. Gareth Southgate was perfect for that one tournament. For that World Cup in 2018, he was the perfect man because he was unassuming. He was, quintessentially British.
Yeah.
Picked a team based off form, but also, what Tuchel's done, built a team, a squad, gave players chances who repaid him, wore a waistcoat, which people seem to go mad for. He was perfect for that one tournament, but he stayed too long. But that's a completely different issue, and completely different to Luis de la Fuente. If Gareth Southgate had won the 2020 Euros and then got to the final of the next one, maybe lost it, he would still be manager today. I have no doubt in my mind.
100%.
But he just didn't win, and that was the difference between them. It's very similar what we've done with Spain and it's what most clubs do nowadays. It's what every nation tries to do if they can. It's it's a progression. It's players who play the same way, every youth group, managed the same way, taught to the same way. But unfortunately, we just didn't have the right man at the right time or the right players at the right time. I don't think we're too many off as well. I genuinely do think we one or two of the players out of this squad into a Gareth Southgate 2018 squad, we'd probably get to the final.
I agree.
I don't think we would have beaten France. Put Bellingham in that 18 squad or put Rice in there. I think we probably get to the final.
Hindsight is just one of those things, isn't it? Like when we look back,
it's
if we'd done this, we could have done it.
It just shows how much putting these building blocks in place, like Spain have done, is a perfect idea on paper. But if you get to this tournament and let's just say you didn't discover Rodri, or Rodri was out of form, or Rodri is injured, or Lamine Yamal never came through, or players like Oyarzabal just didn't exist, just never became a footballer. There's so many scenarios that ultimately you need the perfect team at the perfect time, and that's what Spain have managed.
Have managed to get this time.
In 2 different generations. You know,
True.
they won 3 tournaments in a row, 08, 10 and 12.
Yeah, and so
2 Euros, 1 World Cup.
They're on track.
So they're going to do it. They're going to do it.
They're going to do a repeat.
I mean, I'm putting my money on Spain in 28.
I wouldn't think that was a bad place to put your money, to be honest. I wouldn't doubt it.
If they can learn, or again, it's the luck of if they can find a new, let's just say Fernando Torres, David Villa, Iniesta, they'll win. They won't stop winning.
No,
it's flawlessly built, and if they can add to it instead of losing, you know, if they can, but then you're going to lose Rodri in the next couple of years. He's 30. You know, you've got to keep players fit. And
it's a system. It's a system. But I do agree with you that I do think Spain have got a ways that they can go if they can continue to maintain the technical ability and the style of play that they're going at the moment.
If you can get it right, you can have a generation of success.
100%.
So it's worth doing it.
It's investing in the building blocks outside of the tournaments. That's what leads you to go far in the tournaments. And I think that's one thing I want to see England do over the next 2 years, now that we don't have to qualify, is I want to see England players interacting with each other. I want to see, you know, like England training sessions rather than like, you know, I don't really care about friendlies. I want to see the players train together. I want to see them do things together. I want to see Tuchel build a cohesive team around, you know, in the next 2 years. Because realistically, he had only just taken control just before this tournament. So he hasn't had, an amazing amount of time to be dealing with these players. But he's now he's got 2 years. Go away, build whatever you want to build. Come the Euros, we got to see some proof of what you've done. That's the way I'm looking at it. But I also want to talk about the other goal that somehow wasn't a goal, even though it was. The game should have been wrapped up inside 90 minutes with extra time. In extra time, in the 96th minute, I believe it was, Nico Williams scores a goal after a little bit of a scuffle between Mikel Merino and Otamendi, and it goes in, and it gets ruled as a foul, and we're all looking at it like, why? How? Where's the foul? At first, we think it's because Merino has kind of slid in, and it's like maybe he's like got a neck. Showing the replay, showing VAR, all the commentators were all looking at it going, where's the foul? There is no foul. The official ruling, I believe, was that Mikel Merino stepped on Otamendi's foot. However, if you look at the replay, he barely stepped on his toe. I don't even think and not even like with a stud either. I think like the side of his foot. It's so minimal, and Otamendi's made a whole meal of it. And then everyone's going, it's not a foul. So realistically, we should have actually seen Spain win it inside 96.
I think they should have. I mean, if it was given on field and went to a VAR review, it's not getting overturned. There's not enough. It's an accidental contact. It's tiny contact, and it's not enough. And it's not enough to be considered an error.
No, 100%.
But when you give it on field, I mean, I see. I'm not like throughout this whole tournament. People have talked about the Argentina, how FIFA want them to win. I've not been convinced. Because the Egypt game I didn't think was too much of a injustice towards Egypt, and there's been a few which but this game I genuinely believe Argentina were meant to win it, or FIFA wanted them to win it, or someone wanted them to win it, because that does not get given on field for any other team.
No, not at all.
That goal does not get ruled out for any other team because there's just not enough. There's not enough of a foul. And realistically, yes, should have been given. The other thing that amazed me, that made me think that Argentina, there's a few things, but Argentina were meant to win. There was 4 minutes added time at the end of that game. Now, we all know that 3 minutes of that is a hydration break.
Hydration break, yes.
So in a game, a 45-minute period of a World Cup final, the fourth official has decided, mind you, Argentina are hanging on, they get a red card during this time, that there's 1 minute of added time. Have you ever seen a game have 1 minute of added time at the end?
I can't say I have. Even in like the most like non-foul of esque games, I've seen, when there's been 0 fouls, there's a minimum of 2-3.
There's minimum 3 for. I mean, especially at this World Cup.
Yeah.
There's a minimum. I mean, 3 for the hydration break, but there's usually about 6.
Yeah.
Even games where you're sat there like, okay, well, it's 0-0, nothing's happened.
Yeah, 6 minutes added on. I mean, look at Qatar versus Canada. Qatar were losing what 3-0, 4-0, and there's
5 or 6.
yeah,
and then 10 minutes
and there's 9 minutes added on. And I mean, I'm not being funny, but if they're going to add it on in that scenario, where I would love to know, this is the thing, I would love FIFA to be transparent about the decisions. They don't have to do it at the time, but post game, like 2 days later, I would love for them to publish like reports about why. About every decision that they made and like the reasoning for it, and like to have that as a public kind of source of information that you can go and be like, okay, why did Nico Williams' goal not stand? What was the foul before? What was the conversation in the room that led to them going, oh no, that's a foul? So I would love for them to do that, and like even to be like, oh, why was only 2 minutes added on? I know sometimes it's the the decision of the ref, because he can decide whatever he wants basically, but. Even if that's the case, and just be like, look, decision was made by, I don't know, whoever, Michael Oliver, to have only 2 minutes, and that way we start to see like where we want, where these decisions are coming from, how these decisions play into it, and I think that will be a really good thing for FIFA to do. Although FIFA have been so heavily criticised by basically every other international competition body, UEFA, CONMEBOL, I think have done it as well. Like all of them, like everyone's coming out and going like, right, you guys are just not doing it right. I mean, the La Liga president I saw this morning sent out a scathing criticism of Infantino and FIFA, despite the fact that Spain won the World Cup, which I think also speaks volumes, by the way, is if the nation that has won the World Cup, if their national body is going, you guys have done this wrong, it's bad. Everyone's referring to the Blogan red card, which, I mean, it's old news now, but realistically, if America had gotten through, that would have been a crisis. And the La Liga president literally goes, oh, as a result of Belgium going through, you got to like sweep it under the rug. But like we all still remember. And then they're like, he was like, oh, you change your rules based on however it suits you. Like, the rules say that the halftime should be no longer than 15 minutes. Oh, but you want a halftime, so it's 27 now. And it's just like, it's scathing, realistically. And so I do think that it's interesting, and I'm curious to see if Infantino remains as FIFA president when the next election comes around. Because I don't think he will. I think his time is done as a result of this World Cup. Even though there's talk that most likely the next World Cup in 2030 will have 64 teams. Is it 64 or is it 68? I can't remember what it is.
64, I'm pretty sure.
64. Yeah, 64 teams hosted across 6 nations, which makes no sense in my opinion, but it is what it is. So, I mean, would you say that this 48-team tournament has been a success? I mean, they've expanded it this time, and we got to see.
Yes, but I wouldn't want more. I don't know where this decision for more is, because if you have 64 teams, what's the point of qualification?
Well, I think what they're trying to do is make the group stages more brutal by having only the top 2 teams go through. Yeah,
they want, but also, I get it, Cape Verde and Curacao, yes, great stories of them getting points, Cape Verde getting through, but we don't need more. We don't need more. Look at teams like Tunisia and Uzbekistan. Those teams qualified because of the expanded tournament. They were awful. So if you make it more, you're going to have more awful teams, while removing the jeopardy of qualification for teams like Italy and teams like Ireland, who lost in the playoff round. You take away any jeopardy for these nations. You give nations, it's not. The World Cup is the most prestigious tournament in the world. If you make it easily accessible, you just water down the tournament.
The prestige.
The prestige of it. If anyone can get into it, so I think I don't understand how anyone at FIFA can look at this tournament and think we need more. It went on.
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons for both. I like the idea of having the group stage with only the top 2 teams going through, because I did think the whole third place league thing was rubbish, frankly, because I do think it was one of those where you look at it and you go, Okay, so you've come third in your group, but because you've done better than somebody else's third place finish, you can continue and you can't. And it's like, so basically, it's just rubbish because, oh, if you got like a group of death, so to speak, then your third place was much harder fought than an easier group, if that makes sense. Like if you got given like a Cape Verde, a Panama, a Tunisia, you just knew that your third place team was going through because they lost every game, which meant everyone else got points. And so it was just a little bit like, oh, okay, like, so I like the idea of making the group stage a bit more like brutal. I do think that even by the end of the group stage, like we were doing the podcast for those episodes, right? For those matches. And even we were sat there going at one point towards the end of it, like, my God, is there still more teams? Is there still more games? Like, we're not even at the end. We're going through every match. There's still more. We haven't got there yet. The fact that we had to break up the first round of the group stage into two separate episodes purely because of how long it takes to go through all of them. I do think that if you add more, you're just going to water down the viewership because people are not going to want to sit and watch. I mean, there's over 100 games played in this tournament alone, right? I believe 104 is what I wrote down in my notes. And that's the final was the 104th game, which obviously they don't all play those games, but as a viewer, if you're blessed to not have anything to do, then 104 matches is a lot of football to consume in 40 days, in like a month and a half. And so I do think there is a little bit of, it's just simplify it, make it harder to get into, make it a bit more competitive. And if you're up, if you're like, oh, we want to see these other smaller teams, then make the qualifiers more easily accessible, make them, make us care about them more, show us the storylines of those nations. Like the fact that none of us had heard about Cape Verde before the World Cup started. No one even knew where they were, right? And this is the thing is, but if they had made a big deal or a bigger deal and, publicized more about their qualification and we'd, seen the story and they'd showed us games and blah, 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 and showed us clips online and things. Because let's be honest, in the modern world, when you've got social media and, news outlets on everyone's phones, it doesn't take that much to stir up some excitement for what is arguably one of the greatest underdog stories in the tournament. I mean, you got to think Cape Verde technically haven't lost to either of the finalists. They're the only team in the tournament to be like, yeah, well, both the teams that played the final, they couldn't beat us. So arguably, you put Cape Verde in the final, they might win it. But this is my thing: is I do think that there is. If FIFA is so concerned about viewership and about making the tournament better and bigger, make the qualifiers mean more. Give us more qualifiers. Make the qualifiers prestigious.
But the thing is, I think they do mean more because Curacao beat Jamaica to get to the World Cup. The Jamaicans are quite a big team to miss out. And they've got quite a few good players. So there is already jeopardy with the group stage. We don't need teams getting in on the basis, because that means that basically if we add in another 20 odd teams, you probably add in Italy, who weren't good enough to get through. You add in Ireland, you add in Wales, and these teams weren't good enough to get into the World Cup now. Why should they get an easier route? Just for what? To create a... I don't see the... people watch... The most watched games are the teams with the best players. See, it's not like you're increasing your viewership. You are solely just creating a bigger tournament, more games, more money, I guess they think. I don't see it from a actual competitive standpoint.
No, because it's true. Because even like when we had a game, obviously we're all based in the UK, so when we had a UK timed game at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m, that was like Tunisia versus whoever, and we were looking at like, I'm not staying up to watch that because I don't care about it. Even though it's a World Cup group stage game, I should care. I should be excited for basically all of them. I'm not staying up until 4 a.m. to watch Tunisia play. I'm not doing it. And so these are the kind of things that I thought were key when it comes to, like, you don't want to expand the tournament too much because then people will stop caring. If the tournament becomes a pain to watch, and if it drags on for too long, we're not going to want to watch it. I saw a thing that said that if they expand the tournament to 64 teams, potentially we'll need to scrap qualification in South America because essentially every South American team gets in.
Qualify, yeah.
So they've got to redesign the qualifiers basically because on their new system there's no qualification required in South America, which then makes it unfair as a whole because you've got an entire continent of countries that get in purely based on their geographical position rather than their actual talent. And I think, again, I'm throwing back to the La Liga president's criticism of FIFA. He said that, I don't know, I mean, it's not a direct quote, but he said something along the lines of FIFA do whatever they please for, and they destroy the, national leagues and national tournaments and like competitive games purely on the basis of pushing everything into a 40-day event that they can profit off of. Something along the lines of that. And it's so true is that, the more World Cup games they have, now we've had 104 World Cup games. Premier League starts in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So anyone who, was in the final or semi-finals or like later stage of the tournament will have less rest time before pre-season kicks off. And, ultimately that will lead to, people being tired, potentially to lead to injuries as a result of lack of rest. So it's a knock-on effect that the tournament has. And obviously, it's a World Cup. We all bend our way. I mean, Mourinho was sat there doing interviews being like, it sounds selfish, but I hope they all lose so that they come back and rest before pre-season. That was in the group stages. I mean, that just tells you that people are already thinking it's too much. They're doing too much. Yeah, I don't have a solution that I could be like, this is what you should do to fix it. But I can tell you that it's not, the way they're going about it is not the way that the general population of the planet is going, yes, do that. It's all money in the end of the day. I agree. It's all money.
Yeah. Anyway, going back to though, about the added time. There was 5 minutes added on when Argentina needed a goal at the end of the second extra time. So there's more time added on after 15 minutes of football than there were 45, just so Argentina can get an equaliser, which 46. And I also, I don't know if you noticed at the end, the fireworks and confetti around the stadium.
All blue,
all
right?
Blue and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did notice that.
There's a few things that I noticed. I thought, okay. But one thing I wanted to bring up is Mr. Trump still hasn't learned that celebrating teams do not want him involved with the celebrations.
I was going to mention this. Infantino and Trump walk across the podium holding the World Cup, as is the custom that the leader of the host nation hands over.
Even though there's 3 leaders of host nations, but he had to be the one to do it.
He had to be the one to do it alone, and Infantino obviously couldn't break the rules that much, so walked it across with him. But you can see Trump is very much the one holding that trophy. Hands it to Rodri, is cheering with Rodri in the middle, and then Infantino walks off. Not completely walks off, but walks to the Infantino. He does like a little runs off to the side. Blah blah blah. Everyone's there. Did you see Mikel Merino do like Trump's little dance?
Took the piss out of him,
yeah. And then once Trump moves to the side, like he's still there in front, but he moves over to the side. Then, then they lift the trophy and do the whole celebration. But he hasn't learned.
He hasn't learned. He weren't right in the middle. But my favourite thing about that is Infantino is clearly trying to get him. He's clearly told him, we hand the trophy to Rodri there.
Oh, walks
you know him. You just shook his hand. Then we walk off the stage. We don't stay. And Trump just has not listened one little bit. And he stands there. He stands in front of Gavi. Gavi doesn't have a clue what's going on. He just looks at him, and then he sort of shakes someone else's hand, and then just stands there. Rodri's like, "Come on, just go away." He wouldn't do it. He'd waited. And but my favourite thing is Infantino is there, and it's like when you're taking your dog for a walk, and your dog's clearly stopped, and it's seen something, and it's like its ears are up, and it's standing on its hind legs, like really like it's gonna bolt, and you're like there as a dog owner, like you're like no, please don't go, please, and Trump has just gone, like he's stood there, he's shook players' hands. Infantino's like, oh please, come on, let's walk off, Donald, let's walk up. Like it's the first human moment I've ever seen from Infantino. Where like genuinely he feels a little bit embarrassed that Donald Trump is that much of a narcissist that he believes that he should be involved in
lifting
this.
the World Cup.
So, but like it'd make it better if he was there. And Infantino, genuinely, you can see it in his body language. He's like, please, come on, please, Donald, I've told you. And even when he walks to him, like he just saunters over Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Even when he's off to the side, Infantino's like, come on, we got to go now. Come on, they want to lift traffic. We got to
100%.
go. And he just stands there like look on his face like, yep, this is all for me. This is great. And he's
it is ridiculous. But I mean, speaking of Trump, in American press today and yesterday, we've got like Sports Illustrated and everyone talking about Trump wants apparently the US to immediately push to host the World Cup again, and the next available one is obviously 2038 because we're lined up for the next two, which is the infamous sixth tournament in 2030 and then Saudi Arabia in 2034, right? So 2038 is still up for grabs, and under the rules, North America and Oceania are eligible to host it. There's like a cycle that you can't. I think one continent can't have it 2 years in a row or something.
Yeah.
Although I don't know how that works for. Oh no, it's Brazil then Russia. Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently Trump has requested to host it only with America hosting next time, not with Canada and Mexico, and he wants it like as soon as humanly possible. So that's something that we could see as America hosting it again in 12 years.
I think it's entirely possible, and they've got the infrastructure for it.
I think it's more than likely.
And the best thing about it is that Trump won't be there.
Trump won't either. We will not. Well, we don't know what happens in the world.
Or he won't be president.
Again, we don't know what's going to happen in terms of global politics, but
no,
he won't be.
If Donald Trump is still there in 12 years and is still president when the World Cup goes back to America, I think the world would have already been destroyed.
Probably.
The world would be in rubble, right? It wouldn't even be visible from space anymore.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump would still be there, just standing there in the rubble with a trophy in his hand. And a photographer. And
posting it on his like Truth social media page.
He posted it on his social media saying, I've delivered the World Cup trophy to the winners. There's no one else with him.
There's no one there left.
But I've done it. I've handed it to them.
100%. Well, the one last thing I want to talk about though, regarding the final, before we move on to like just overall thoughts about the tournament, is after the final whistle goes, we have the Argentinian players literally throwing hands, fighting
they
the
haven't
Spanish.
learned. It's not a UFC event. They didn't learn.
Well, obviously, Paredes, the famous incident that has been marked out of all of it is Paredes literally like throat punching Is it Kubasi? I believe it's
Gavi.
Gavi.
Or Gavi, you're one of them.
Yeah. Is Paredes throwing Gavi to the ground and like punching him in the throat essentially, and like it's a whole like massive there's essentially a whole fight breaks out at the end of it. You know, we're being impartial. Maybe the Spanish were like talking, whining, saying something to them, like trying to rile them up, whatever. We know that the Argentinians are basically heightened at all times in this tournament anyway, and are not afraid of getting aggressive. But it's just you look at the way England-France ended after that game finished, and England and France famously hate each other. Famously hate each other for probably all the correct historical reasons. But at the end of the game, French players, English players were all huddling together, praising each other, hugging, talking, laughing, just showing the unity that the World Cup is supposed to bring. After the final game, this is the pinnacle of sport. Essentially, you're fighting on the sideline because you can't handle that you've lost, or you can't handle whatever. I mean, it's just it's so poor. And at the time, obviously, there was a whole thing of Paredes has not been booked as a result of that. And the reason FIFA have done that is because they've sent it to and again, the same with how they raised the Falklands banner at the end of the England game. It's gone to the independent FIFA panel, the Observer panel, I believe is what it's called. And depending on what that panel says, the ban for him could be much harsher for Paredes and for all the other players involved in the fighting. So I'm curious to see what comes of that. That will take, I think the last time something like this happened, it took about a month for the decision to be made and put out there. So we'll be seeing what happens at the end of August, at the end of the summer, whether any of these Argentinian players are going to face some backlash for fighting. And you know what? And because I'm not being biased, even some of the Spanish players fight, for inciting it maybe, depending on how it all goes. because we don't support violence out on in sport. It's just not okay. So I'm hoping to see some kind of retribution for their actions, and to show to the world that FIFA still has control of their tournament, and that it's there are rules in place that we actually follow. Not one rule for some people and another rule for other people. So this is going to be something it was just poor. It was just so poor. But that's the entire final summed up. We've concluded the tournament. It's been a great tournament. We've officially finished the first season of the podcast with this episode going out.
Woohoo!
The whole tournament's been covered. So pat on the back to us. Pat on the back to
everyone. Only downhill from here.
It's only downhill when the Premier League season starts off, and you hear me talking every weekend about how much I despise Arsenal yet again for ruining my fun. But that is that. But we'll leave it on. I want to just hear, what is throughout the whole tournament, what is your favourite goal, and what team impressed you the most?
My favourite goal? Oh, well, team is obvious. It's Cape Verde. It's just they were genuinely excited to watch their matches. Even though Spain played Uruguay, which famously is quite a good World Cup match, Cape Verde v Saudi Arabia was the one I was genuinely excited to watch. So I'd have to say Cape Verde. Favourite goal, I would say probably not best goal, but favourite goal was probably Bellingham's first against Mexico.
Oh,
just because it was such a well worked move, and it was just that game was probably my favourite game throughout the whole tournament. So I'd have to say that one.
Fair enough.
There's other really good ones though.
There've been loads. I think my favourite nation to watch was probably Norway. Actually, at the end of it, so when I've looked back and I've totaled up, I really focused on all of Norway's games. And I obviously like some of the players, but I really think they played a really great tournament. And I think if we didn't have Cape Verde and Curaçao's underdog stories in there, Norway's the length, the progression Norway has made in this tournament is so underspoken about. That is a huge achievement for a team that hadn't qualified for 30 plus years to get all the way to the quarterfinal, to the last 8. That was phenomenal. And then their whole row celebration and the way that they conduct themselves on the pitch was just fantastic. So I definitely think that for me, Norway was the team I was most excited for. In terms of goals, though, there can only be one, and it's got to be the second Cape Verde goal against Argentina. Cabral, it just has no right to shoot. It is it's unequivocal. That is goal of the tournament for me, because he cuts in away from Messi to the edge of the box, and you're looking at like, oh, it's over, it's done. Where's he gonna go? And he just hits it, and it curls perfectly. And you just watch as Martinez looks at it going by, thinking, oh, he's missed. Nope. Pockets into the side netting. It's just beautiful. He will never hit a better goal in his life, frankly.
No.
That is his career made. But yeah, for me, that's got to be the absolute best goal of the tournament, because it was just, I was on my feet, losing my mind, and I don't even support either nation. That's how you know. It was unreal. Unreal scenes. Oh. But with that is all we've got time for. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for following along with me and Matt throughout the tournament. It's been fun. It's been a great time. I'm very pleased with how this podcast has shown up in recent days. We thank you all for listening, and we will hopefully see you again very soon for season 2.
Woohoo! Goodbye.